you can keep on hating. You can keep on hating on me. 'Cause a hater gon' be what a hater's supposed to be. So I ain't hating on you haters hating on me.
Oh, rickety, right? Let's get down to it. What up? Happy Monday. Hopefully y'all are doing good, feeling good. It's that time, man. Start of the week. Event-filled weekend, man. And ALGS 6 series. Of course, always the APAC regions have the back-to-back, the doubleheaders, right? RLCS, every region other than EU, wrapping up their first qualifier of the year. I gotta say, I kind of like the new format of Championship Sunday, man. It's just a full packed day of top 4 matchups. I'm a big fan. I think I can get with it. Still some things I think that they could change, but overall, I think it's a pretty big dub, man. Missed last week. Was a little under the weather during the middle of the week, which kind of made me feel like I fell behind throughout the rest of the week trying to get videos and stuff done. But you know what? I think I was kind of talking a little bit during the watch parties this weekend. I think we're going to start doing this thing on Mondays and Thursday mornings with your boy. You know, get a little coffee with Q. We can do the podcast, talk some esports, right? Also kind of lets me get some things down that, like, I can also use later on for like some long form content as well, right? And that's, of course, it's not locked. Maybe as like TEC starts to pick up and casting starts taking up a little bit more of my time, maybe we go back to like the once a week episode. But I think for now, we're going to go to Mondays and Thursdays, kind of around this time, 10, 10:30, 11, somewhere in there, kind of depending on how I'm feeling, what I've got going on. Kind of want to wrap up a few things as far as the weekend before I jumped on this morning here and got things going this morning. But I think usually 10, 11 o'clock on Mondays and Thursdays is good. We might even do something on Wednesdays. Maybe not so much a podcast, but maybe that's when we do some like VOD reviews or something. Maybe like this Wednesday we can do the VOD review of the qualifiers for North America for VCT. I think there's a lot of different things we can do, man. So I'm kind of excited to get down into it. I think I got a game plan to be able to pump some content, be able to kind of stay on top of things, especially as we kind of move forward. So hopefully you guys are willing to go along for the ride with your boy. Obviously, feel free to jump in the Discord, which should be in the description below if you're watching after the fact or if you're listening over on those podcast platforms. I do believe I have in the descriptions over there as well. If not, find me over on YouTube, youtube.com/@YoBoyCue. Make sure it's the one with the ALGS and Rocket League and all that stuff up on there. But the Discord's over there as well. Best place to kind of keep up. Let me know what you guys are thinking, ideas. I still think at some point when we kind of build this thing up, I wouldn't mind doing like a question and answers or having people coming on like for guest segments and stuff like that. I think for now though, while I kind of figure out the lay of the land, figure out what I want to do, we'll continue doing this thing solo dolo. I'm having fun with it, to be honest with you. I kept trying to figure out a time and a way to kind of fit it in last week at the end of the week. Thinking about fitting it in between the 2 series for APAC South, but then I decided to not watch the second series live for APAC South. I had a couple of games of Little Mans that I wanted to get to on Saturday, as well as we had a birthday party to get to. So I wanted to make sure I was able to get some of that stuff done. So I didn't do it then. I figured, you know what, we'll just go ahead and knock it out on Monday. We're doing the double feature, or, we're doing the double header this week as far as Monday and Thursday. We'll kind of move on from there. You know what I mean? But really, a busy, fun, super exciting weekend, man. We talk about how everything, we always, kind of have been more busy with APAC Breakdown here recently. So let's go ahead and get down into it as far as ALGS. Let's run that back, actually. Let's get down and talk about it here real quick. ALGS week number 3 is done. 4 sessions in EMEA and NA, 5 sessions for both the APAC regions. So we're getting to that point where we're about midway through the year, getting kind of close for NA and EMEA once they do one more session, they're there. And then we also have one more week, and then we'll get ourselves a little bit of a break in the action thanks to a new season of Apex Legends coming around. Rumored to be bringing some big changes. Going to be excited to kind of see how that plays out at the competitive level. There's also been some rumors that maybe that's just something that gets done in pubs. Of course, anything that's leaks there's nothing that's confirmed, nothing that we can really say until we actually see the release of the new chapter, right? So not quite as busy of a week of ALGS as we saw in week number 2. 6 sets is still a lot to break down. So let's go ahead and get down and do what it do. ALGS week number 3 TLDR. Another week in North American Apex, and it's kind of what we're seeing, guys. A lot of the same stories, right? Dark Zero has their 3rd straight top 3 to open up the season. All but one of their finishes on the day were in the top 7. I mean, we're talking SSG was able to have a rather similar performance, which is big for them. Last time these two teams squared off against one another, they walked away in 16th, right? Yeah, 4 points. So 16th place they finished last time. As far as those post-match series points, man, 4 points doesn't get you much. So for them to be able to, 1, turn things around in B versus C, have a first place last week, then to turn things around and then have the the 3rd place this week, the 18 points, 2 big weeks like that back-to-back, puts you in a good place moving down the rest of the season again, especially since for you've already had 3 series in your schedule already complete for SSG, so you're halfway through your season, right? Sure, SSG fans got to be liking the roster pickup. Let's be real, right? I mean, they can pick up the roster. You're sitting in 4th. Feels good to have SSG not only back in Apex, but seeing them sitting towards the top of the leaderboard. A story of the day, though, was Oxygen, a team that made some noise towards the end of the season last year as far as, split 2 LAN. And then even did pretty decent at championships as well. Not quite as good, but, I still made finals. They kind of stumbled out the gates, though. I mean, you look as far as up here on the board, 11 points, 5 points. So, not really bunching up them things right up off the rip. A good first place finish for them on the day and day number 4. The big thing for them was the back-to-back wins in games 3 and 4. Especially game 4, man, 14 KP, so 26 points altogether for game 4. I mean, you just look at that point gap. Really, that's kind of comes from the back-to-back there. I think the other reason that you see that big gap, as far as in the standings, you'll see a lot of teams that won. They won, but that was like their only big game, right? I mean, Gaiman Gladiators had a first place finish with 9, so they had themselves 21 points, only added 7 the rest of the day. Complexity in a similar sort of fashion, finishing at 37. So Oxygen kind of benefited from the fact that, the Dark Zeros, the SSGs, even though they were consistent, no big first place finishes. And talk about being consistent, man. Dark Zero looking great. They only had 1 game outside of the top, was it 7? Yeah, 1 game outside the top 7, never having less than 6 KP. I mean, Dark Zero really just continues to be a staple at the top of the leaderboard. It's funny. I think it was Jen Burton I saw a post on Twitter. Hold on. Actually, let me pull it up so I can quote this thing right. Couldn't help but laugh a little bit when I saw it. Wait, why is my Jen Burton? Oh, there it is. Number 1 overall in Pro League. Shit's getting boring, and it just shows the stats. I think the big thing flexing there is the 36 KP that they collected them along the way. So another lobby where they out-fragged the lobby. Didn't quite get the placements again. It was Oxygen. Those back-to-back first places really kind of helped them along the way. But Oxygen get the dub and a big 25 points to their total altogether, followed by Dark Zero, SSG, E8, another team to kind of talk about, a PLQ team that continues to be doing very, very good to start off, split number 1, and GKS, another PLQ team. It's interesting to think that like an NA, a region that's already so strong, and you see a lot of your usual teams at the top here. Of course, keep in mind Furia and Moist only have 2 points, right? Or 2 sessions. So they'll obviously propel more up here towards the top. But as they sit right now, I mean, E8 in 5th place, GKS in 12th, Drop In Gaming even at 13, Oblivion 14, 9 Lives at 16. Quite a few of your PLQ teams kind of sitting on that bubble. Be intrigued to see what the changes that come up, obviously, with the new season. The reason that we have that month break is so teams can kind of dissect it, figure out, how they're going to approach things. I'll be interested to see if maybe that has a chance for some of those teams that are on the gap or on the precipice, on the bubble there, to really kind of push themselves forward, because they had to kind of join in late into a meta that all the pro teams have kind of been practicing at the very highest of levels. So now this kind of can help, even that playing field just a little bit there. So I'll be interested to see how that thing plays out. Definitely also got to give a honorable mention as far as on day number 4 to TSM, another day where they finished in 6th, 1 point away from top 5, but still being able to get those 6th place finishes, 14 points, those things add up, right? Like, yeah, you would like 21, 25, the 18s, those big 3, but you figure the difference between 14 points and 18 points ain't much for only finishing outside the top 5. So they're still sitting tied in second with LG. Couldn't help but laugh in the chats as far as couldn't help but laugh at the chatters from like TSM that you can see that were in Twitch chat, like, oh, where's LG now? It's like, bro, they're still tied with TSM. I don't the people who want LG to fail is very, very strange. I'm not exactly sure where all the hate comes from, man. It's kind of, well, it's not the hate. I think some of it's just that rivalry, I guess. Maybe hate isn't the right word to use. It is quite funny and entertaining to watch, for sure. Of course, so that means NA only has the 1 day. We've got the overall standings right there. I mean, a lot of I think teams that we'd be expecting that would be pushing towards LAN, right? Dark Zero, LG, TSM, SSG, Complexity. I don't think people would have rated them that high, but I think a lot of people still had Complexity on their LAN watch list from NA. Oxygen being up there, Furia, Moist. And even when I look at the teams that are far below them, when let's say, for instance, and I'm not even going to be looking at a DSG because they've only got 2 days, right? Like, more than likely they're going to be up here in this top 10 afterwards. But like the phases of the world. Even like the Sentinel, I guess Sentinels only have 2. But even both them and XET being down there tied at 17 points after 2 match days, kind of low, right? Would really like to see Native start to put things together, man. The Broski Ramboski, but they just seem to be struggling to get things out of the gate. I think I saw they're making a change. Let me look at their roster, and I feel like I would be able to know who it is on their roster they're making a change from. Hold on. Maybe not. I thought they just made a change. I'll have to go back and look on that. Maybe don't hold my word to that. Hopefully, I don't have to edit that out and I look stupid. But I am pretty sure. Let me actually double check this here while I'm thinking about it. Okay, I'm not gonna go searching too much. That's my bad, chat. Again, I feel like I saw that somewhere, but now when I'm looking at Klein, Mamba, I'm not sure if it was one of them. I just thought I saw that one of them was that Native was making a change. Anyways, kind of moving on as far as the other regions, right? Obviously, NA is not the only one. Y'all know that I love hanging out over down in the land of OCE, APAC South. And man, oh man, what a weekend. My boys from Legend Gaming returning into true form, man. They were already looking pretty solid going into the 3rd week. I think they were sitting like 2nd or 3rd, maybe 4th. But they had themselves the back-to-back sort of result that we were really looking for. A 1st place finish, a 2nd place finish. Really, really looking good, man. Y'all know I'm a huge Strafing Flame player, K-fan. Was telling a lot of people about this duo last year back when there was the Chicken Sandwich crew. And we've just seen Strafing Flame, his zone calling, I think, was something that I was really impressed with last year. I even tweeted about it during Champs. Put them in a lot of positions to win. And we really kind of saw it in a similar situation yesterday. Like, Strafing Flame right now calling some amazing Apex. Just doing a really good job, putting themselves in position. They're able to rotate early, put themselves in game winnable positions. They played 12 games this last weekend, right? They were one of the ones who had that back-to-back, right? So they played 12 games. They had 2 wins, 2 thirds, and 4 4th place finishes. So 8 of their games of the 12 were top 4. Only 2 of them? Only one of them 2 of them were outside the top 10. And really, you could say only 2 of them were outside the top 7. Like, that's kind of wild, man. A lot of KP added to their total as well, which allows them to sit up towards the top. The scoreboard, they added 37 KP. 14 they had 14 from Strafing Flame and 14 from Easy Flash. So, I mean, just the team fragging out of their mind, man. At the top of the lobby, as far as for the series in Group A versus B, they had the 12-kill game in game number 5. Also, Horizon had a new org buff. The team that was previously known as Kakoi, or Kakoi, but that before this season, that was the team that was Kassan's Bastion. That was what? Dewa United. So I'm really happy to see them not only land in a good home, but being in a good spot right now as far as on the season. They're currently sitting in 6th. And remember, we are halfway through the season over in APAC South. Exactly. Everyone's played, right? Everyone's played 3 or 4. Everyone's played 3. Let me go to the overview real quick before I get caught saying something I don't know. So we do have a lot of people who've only played 3. Some people have played 4, but still we're over halfway through. People either have 2 or 3 sessions left, depending on if they are in Group C or not. In Group A or not. Group A is the last one to do the doubleheader in the APACs. But also when you talk about the first match day, so the first group, Dreamfire with a pretty good bounce back, man. They were a team that I think everyone was kind of looking at and even struggled early on the day. The first 5 games, they were sitting at 25 points, bro. If it weren't for a 27-point game, they're probably sitting maybe just inside top 10. But kind of salvaged the day with where they're at. We're going to be talking about some roster changes that look to be happening. I'm going to be interested to see a Dreamfire maybe contemplate making a roster move at some point this year. Maybe not during the split. Maybe they decided to play the split out as a full squad, but Dreamfire feels like maybe a little bit of change might be something that they're needing. I don't know who you change out, though. I think if you look at the stats, I think statistically it would probably say PETA, but I'm not sure if that's maybe the move, especially depending on how like the chemistry is there. We know this is one of the longest teams, or one of the teams who's been playing together the longest in ALGS, like as a trio. So I'm not sure. But they are able to get themselves into 6, just outside the top 5. Legends Gaming, Horizon outside, no credit, keep going gaming as far as for the first set. And in the second set, Legends Gaming were able to keep their momentum rolling, kind of like we saw Fnatic do last week, right? And just like I talked about last week with Fnatic, I mean, it's hard to on the back-to-back to have 2 stellar performances. I was actually in Brad's chat in between the 2 series. Was chatting with him a little bit because I actually predicted X and Y bouncing back in the A versus C lobby. I don't know if I necessarily expected them to pop off the way that they did, but I knew that they were going to do a lot better. I mean, you had to do better than last place, right? And I thought Legends Gaming were going to do good. I had to hold on to hope because, again, 12 games of ALGS. And whatever it ends up being, like 7 hours or 6.5 hours, or 7, I think it's like 7.5 hours of the break. It's intense, man. It's wild. So for them to only fall back 1 spot, get in the 2nd place, 46 of those placement points after, a series or a weekend of series is going to be absolutely huge for them. Really big. I was kind of concerned this past weekend with Lightning Unicorn. Probably my biggest surprise out of APAC South. The 9th place finishing their first lobby, then dropping down to 18th in the 2nd lobby. A team that went into the weekend, I think they were sitting like top 5. Meaning in their back-to-back weekend, they combined they accrued less points in their back-to-back weekend than either of their previous lobbies singularly. So they're in a need to get back to the point where they're firing on all cylinders. Luckily for teams in the APAC South region, those teams at the top, there are 8 spots now instead of 5. So you get a little bit more leniency on having 2 bad lobbies instead of like only being able to afford really only 1 last year. And I think Lightning Unicorn will kind of take advantage of the fact that that group kind of behind those top couple, I think is going to be very, very close together. So something we'll have to keep an eye on. Obviously, we have 1 more week next week. And then when they come back, they've only got like 1 more match day, and then it's regionals. It's kind of crazy. Okuma was another team that we were looking at last couple of weeks. We were talking about on the OnCue Esports podcast, right? With their roster changes, kind of seeing when does their chemistry start to kick in. Had a great start to their day with a 3rd and a 2nd place finish, but unfortunately only a handful of points, after that. Able to finish in 6th, so kind of like we talked about with TSM, still getting yourself some salvageable points, right? It's not the worst thing in the world. But they're going to have to start piecing things together somewhat, It's interesting what we're seeing in ALGS, I'm noticing, in the sense of like game 6 is such a huge performance game for so many teams, like turning things around. We saw Boogie Borders do it last week in one of their game 6s. Dreamfire did in the first half, right, with their 27-point game. And then IBG does something similarly with their 22-point game. Release. I mean, they had 22 points. They had 16 points, guys, before game number 6. So they were bottom 5 and able to jump up into 6th place off of 1 big performance. Something that we often see in these regions can, really be a thing, especially when you have up at the top, you have X and Y, Legend, and Full Engaged. And then there's kind of a little bit of a gap, which means that next tier down of teams is going to be closer. You can kind of make a change. You can make a jump there with a big game. But like I said, X and Y was the story of the series, man. Even though the team finished dead last. Talk about a turnaround. Last time A versus C played. I do think part of the reason that we saw X and Y have the dead last finish last time these lobbies played, that was when we had that lobby restart last week for APAC South. And that game for X and Y, they were probably about to go off for like mid-20s. And they had a really bad start to the game, like their series. So their first 2 games were like really, really bad. You're like on pace to have a phenomenal game in game number 3. You get the restart. Then I think they had like got contested or something like that. So they ended up going out early, kind of shot the mental for the rest of the series. So this time they start things off with a dub, 4 top 5s, 5 top 6s. X and Y ends up taking things home. Legends in 2nd, like we talked about, off the back-to-back series. Full Engage in 3rd, Bear Claw Gaming and Burger rounding out top 5. Of course, Burger also just recently making those changes, picking up Sharky. So they do also seem to be kind of turning things in the right direction. Burger currently sitting down in 12th, though. And they are a team that has 4 sessions. Unfortunately for them, this last weekend was the back-to-back, and you'll notice I didn't say anything about them during the first series. They finished in 19th, only picking themselves up 1 point. But that's just how it goes sometimes. APAC North. They also have the back-to-back, of course. As per the usual for the APACs. The back-to-back this time around for groups A, actually. So maybe that was the same way, I guess, for, I said earlier, groups A was next week. It's actually groups B that are next week. But this week, as far as for APAC North, man, I feel like the first lobby played out kind of interesting because you had teams like Satuchi Sparks and Riddle Order and Enterforce 36. Who were pretty consistently like in your top 3 or 4. So kind of like we talked about in NA, right? Like you had a lot of teams kind of scoring or getting themselves a win, even big wins. You talk about Meteor with 21 points in game number 3. SBI with the 20 points in game number 4. And neither of them finishing at least inside the top 10. SBI sitting straight at 10th. Even Kinotrope Gaming with their 25-point game. Only being able to move themselves up into 6th. Just because a lot of those teams at the top being very, very consistent. Tech Wing starting things off with a 22-point game, and then even adding 6 KP going out in 14th in the next game. So they started off pretty hot. Unfortunately, the rest of the day weren't able to put in too many points, especially in games 5 and 6 kind of fell off rather heavy. I think they were sitting like in 3rd at one point in time. Even rather late, I think, going into game 5. Riddle Order, though, has now, at this point, before getting into the A versus C lobby, because they were in the back-to-back, but they started off with 3 second-place finishes. So 3 different series where you walk away with 21 post-match series points. That's huge for them on the overall scoreboard, as we'll be able to see when we kind of click over here. Currently sitting in 1st, even above Fnatic, who Fnatic has had 3 series as opposed to 2, so I think it's safe to say Fnatic will probably pass them up, but I think they're the only team that will pass them up. Even if Pulverex happens to win and it gets to 25, that only brings them up to, 70? So Riddle Order's currently in 2nd place, but, probably will be in 3rd after Fnatic next weekend has the back-to-back. Or no, I guess Fnatic doesn't have the back-to-back next week. Then they have the back-to-back final on when they come back from the break. I didn't realize next week they also had the back-to-back. Is that right? I don't think that's right. I think there's a back-to-back and then there's a solo. Anyways, that's besides the point. Ain't no need to be straying aside as far as that. For the Satuchi Sparks in game 5, though, with their win, that was pretty well where they were able to put themselves in position to pass up Riddle Order. Riddle Order not able to get much kills other way through. But I think the big story of the weekend, look at Fnatic. They're going to be the first team in the 2nd series to be able to walk away with 3 dubs, getting themselves that extra bonus point for themselves that extra bonus point for the post-series placement point. So you'll see on the standings here, they got... I thought that showed 26 earlier. Am I tripping? I thought they got an extra point if they won the 3rd. I'm pretty sure they have an extra point. I think Battlefy shows it. Hold on. Now I got to check Battlefy because, I know I saw it earlier. So salty. Sorry. Hold on, chat. Yeah, they have the extra point here. I don't think they accounted for that over on Wikipedia. But they are the first team to be able to get themselves the extra point based off of the rule of getting themselves 3 dubs. 2 of their wins with 15 kills. 2 27-point games. Along with a 21-point banger. I mean, let's be honest. When you have Fnatic popping off like that, there ain't really much else you can do for the other teams. Was nice to see Reject, Winity, the old Realize roster, able to pick up 2 dubs as well. Remember, they had a pretty solid performance opening weekend. Not so much last weekend. So for them to bounce back here, they have 4 top 5s, 2 dubs, 1 second place finish. 2nd overall by a good margin, even until Riddle Order in 3rd, but Riddle Order on the back-to-back, so a 2nd and 3rd place for them. Feeling pretty good. Pulverex finishing in 4th. They were a team that I think a lot of people were expecting more out of with the roster changes. I know I definitely thought when we saw all of the roster moves, they picked up 2 fraggers. I thought they were going to be doing good. We have seen them have some more of these pop-off games, though, something that we didn't necessarily see so much from FShan and Pulverex last year. They were kind of more of a low and slow team. Get to the zone early. If they win, they're winning with like 4 or 5 kills. So I think for them, it's just kind of finding that mid-ground for their play style. But it seems like they're starting to figure it out. North Epsilon also with a nice little bounce back in A versus C. But I got to say, guys, I think for Northeption, they're in some trouble. Sitting in 8th currently, but there's a lot of teams that are behind them that have only played 3 series that I think are going to be passing them up in the coming weeks. I think Northeption is going to be one of those teams that come the end of the year, it's going to be close to see if they end up qualifying for LAN. It should be interesting. But yeah, EMEA, guys, was pretty fun. Actually, honestly, EMEA was pretty dope because for me, y'all know I'm a huge 07 fan. In NASCII, we trust. They started off really hot. 2 dubs over on Storm Point, including a 10 KP game in game number 3. We got word about it being Alliance's last go-around with Yuki. Yuki's going to still be on reserve in case they need him at LAN or anything like that, but they are going to be picking up. I actually just saw, before we popped live, that their new team, or their new third, has already been announced. It's going to be Unlucky, which I kind of figured was going to be the case. We had seen that Orglist in Hungary, a couple of their players had tweeted that it was the last weekend with Unlucky, so I kind of put that one together. What is interesting is knowing that that move has happened. Graceful said that one of their teammates has gotten a big opportunity, which makes me think that Graceful's home teammate is going. One of Graceful's teammates is going to be filling in over at Orglist in Hungary, because Orglist in Hungary is sitting in a pretty solid spot right now on the year. They're sitting in 2nd. Definitely going to be a LAN squad. So they're definitely going to be trying to find themselves a fragger. Don't have any idea who. Not quite yet. Who? Only time will tell. But E6 looking really good, guys. We talked about them. What was it? The first week? Second week? First week they won. Didn't look so hot in day number 2. And then they were, of course, off last week. Or last week was the double feature, so they had the Saturday game. But then bouncing back and getting themselves another win. And pretty convincingly, too. And it's worth noting that they didn't have like a huge first place finish. Although they did have a lot of heavy frag games, right? 12 kills on a second place finish in game number 1. 9 kills in a 9th place finish in game number 2. 7th and a 4th place finish in game number 3. 7th and a 6th place finish in game number 5. Then 6 kills in both 4th place finish in games 4 and 6. So able to just be consistent with racking up the points, man. Something that you see with those fighting teams when they're feeling themselves, even if they happen to get third-partied. Able to walk away by a good margin. 26 points between them and Cybercats. Cybercats were able to secure themselves 2nd place with a big dub in game number 6, which gave them the tiebreaker over Orglist and Hungary, since they were both tied at 50 points. An Alliance for Yuki's last go-around, able to go out and still put up a top 5 performance. Alliance was one of those teams before the last iteration of lobbies last week. You kind of had some concerns, right? But they've already been able to bounce back a little bit. Now they're in the standings. They're sitting in 8th place after 3 series. Yeah, you have teams like UAIM and Made in Heaven that are sitting just outside that bubble or around that bubble line that have only played twice. But, should be interesting how Unlucky blends in with the squad. I feel like Hawkins' experience as far as a leader and a caller. Oh, yeah, it's already there. Unlucky's here. And then, of course, effect is effect. So I think for Hawkins now, Unlucky's controller, right? Yeah, he is controller. So, Hawkins at the point where he's like a lot of these OG IGLs, man, now playing with 2 controllers. You still got plenty of season left. You're literally at the halfway mark in EMEA. You've got 3 sessions left. And I think for Alliance, we know they've got the experience on that roster, especially knowing who the third's already going to be with Unlucky coming over. I think they'll be just all right. I think they'll be good. I almost wonder if whatever is going on for Yuki to be taking the step down? Because it sounds like it's not like a performance thing really for Yuki. I think it's just Yuki's got some stuff going on. I don't know if it's like in his other, because I think Yuki also still works too, maybe, possibly. Anyways, I don't know what it is. I don't want to throw out rumors. But now we're going to have the opportunity for Hotkiss, somebody with a lot of experience, who's, been able to call some games in some very tight situations, now rocking with 2 fraggers. This Alliance squad is going to be scary. I think Alliance is going to be, don't be surprised if this Alliance squad still somehow finds themselves back up at the, top, still being fine when it comes to land time. So E6 Cybercats second. Yeah, we already went over those 5, right? How went it down? Orgless and Hungary in third. 07 Alliance. Vamos Correr with their roster change, having a pretty decent bounce back in 6th as well. So EMEA gave us a pretty, honestly, all the way around, I felt like ALGS gave us a pretty banger this week, man. I feel like ALGS has been giving us a phenomenal product so far this year. Unfortunately, we are going to be without ALGS after next week. We'll still be kind of talking, that gives us time to have some fun with maybe some tier lists and things like that, kind of for going forward. We'll do some predictions for the last, couple of weeks as well. Next week, not really sure yet as far as what watch parties look like. For ALGS, probably going to be able to hang out and do most of them. It will be the following weekend where we've got RLCS casting kind of intervening in, but we'll kind of address that when we get there. You know what I mean? But if you're watching with us when we were hanging out Sunday this past weekend, y'all will know that we weren't watching ALGS. As I talked about earlier, man, we were really, really enjoying the new championship Sunday format for Rocket League. Unfortunately, right now for the first event, we didn't have any regional coverage in the minor regions. But I think once we start having at least a smaller broadcast being approved, when we talk about for OCE, APAC, when I'm back working with SSA, Championship Sunday is going to be a banger. I don't know if we're calling these things qualifiers, if we're calling them regionals. It felt like everybody on the broadcast were calling them regionals. Maybe that's just because of habit. But NA gave us a banger. My predictions were a little bit off. My top of the predictions were quite right. We talked about it pretty well being Gen G and G2 in a tier by themselves at the top. Separated from the rest, definitely kind of played itself out that way in the bracket, but even kind of how the bracket itself played out very much felt that way. We do still have this weekend for EU, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. The week or on the Thursday episode, we'll probably do some Swiss bracket predictions, as well as doing the predictions of the playoff stages. Playoffs! We'll also end up doing that there. Final day, though, there really wasn't. What was funny is as much as the Saturday's games all seemed pretty solid. We had some 6s. Even the 5-game series looked like that time they're going to be going 6s between Space Station Gaming and Luminosity versus G2. But I would say it seemed almost across the board when we talk about RLCS. The final 4 games were kind of one-sided in all regions. When we talk about G2, they were able to, one, they got into the playoffs by not dropping a single series. Only dropped 5 games. Yeah, they were 9-5. So it looks pretty solid. They did have 2-game 5s, but, tis what it is. Once they got into the playoff bracket, though, G2 lost 1 game to both Luminosity and Dignitas. Then didn't drop a single game to Gen G, which is impressive. Gen G looked really, really good in their semifinal game against Shopify Rebellion. And had looked good, I mean, really all weekend long. And G2 just beat them down. I mean, it was one of those situations where G2 was controlling the pace the entirety of the game, spending a lot of time down the Gen G half of the pitch. When Gen G did get possession of the ball, was able to cross that midfield line. Not really able to put up much of a resemblance of any sort of offense or anything. A shot here and there, but not of a lot of like really controlled paced attacks at the net. Which makes you wonder, is this like still we still in that honeymoon sort of phase for G2 with the new roster? Was this them peaking? Did Gen G fumble the bag? I'm not 100% sure what it was. Definitely feel free to let me know down in the comments. But I don't think anyone was expecting the grand finals to go the way that it did. Even though I think for those of us who are watching the grand finals, we all know what happens when you have a matchup of this caliber. It's this 50-50. It is close, and then all of a sudden it's a sweep on the desk. I think everyone could kind of at that point maybe predict that G2 was going to take the dub. But I don't think anyone would be able to predict that G2 were going to be that dominant. I mean, a sweep, it was ugly. Able to keep, like I said, the constant pressure was pretty crazy. I think the biggest surprises for me, we got Pirates on a boat, making their way through Swiss, and even able to take 2 games off Dignitas, almost able to push to a game 7. I think that's going to be like probably my biggest surprise, positive surprise. My biggest negative surprise definitely has to be TSM. And not just because I'm a Wavy fanboy and wanted to see them go further. I think a lot of people were expecting TSM to at least make top 8. And if they didn't make top 8, at least make it to the 5th round. I mean, you barely squeezed past Deleted XD. And don't let that sound like a knock to Deleted XD, because like the squad over Deleted XD has been doing really good in the bubble scene. I don't think they're far from piecing together a run into a Swiss or into a top 8 in their own right. I think Deleted XD are close. But it felt like when you started off with a 3-2 against Deleted XD, you kind of saw the writing on the wall that there was going to be a struggle through Swiss. M80 looked, M80 looked amazing in Swiss play. So you couldn't really vault them for the 2-3 there. And even when you lost to Dignitas 3-0, I think the concerning thing was the fact that you got swept. I don't think that you were concerned that you lost. Right? I think truly the concerning thing was just that it was a sweep. And I feel like they got out. I'm pretty sure when you looked at the offensive production, it was just Dignitas really controlling the pace of the game. So, and then Pirates on a boat, man. Surprise of surprises. Man, Pirates on a boat able to do it with their 1 foot out the door as well after losses to SSG and NRG. And then you get your 3-0 OG. You almost sweep TSM. You win in 4, then you sweep Young Whippersnappers. Able to secure themselves a top 8 finish. Excited to see what comes from Pirates on a boat for upcoming events. I do think TSM also going to turn up. What's going to be interesting is with the region only getting 4 spots. And looking at the way that things are right now, it feels like you got to guarantee Gen G and G2, at least for the first LAN. Because I don't see anyone really playing the same sort of Rocket League as them right now. So it feels like everyone else is playing for 2 spots. Which means 1, you got to be bringing the heat every qualifier. And 2, 1 big qualifier doesn't anymore guarantee you to be at least in the running for a LAN, right? I think when we look at how this one plays out, when you talk about your 3rd and 4th place finishers, Dignitas, Shopify Rebellion. Let's look at the Shopify Rebellion, for instance, who I think some people were surprised made it into a top 8. If this is your only top 8 for the qualifiers, even if you did finish top 4, you're not in the running for LAN for the first major. So things are going to get, again, things are going to be very, very tight, I think, in that third and fourth major spot in NA. And with already having some curveballs in here, I don't know, man. Does feels bad for the TSM fans in the room. Hi, I'm TSM fan. I do know this is the squad's first RLCS event, making it this far, first top 16 for Wavy. But I think the big thing for me for TSM fans is going 6-11. Most of that being the Dignitas series, I guess, realistically, but to follow that up and then go to Pirates on a boat, I don't know, man. I'm not going to spend as much time on the minor regions, mostly for the fact that I didn't watch as much of them because it was kind of hard to track down. Did watch some tape. My boy Bepic running the cast over on the Elevate stream. Not surprised that they were in the grand finals. Surprised that they were not playing against Gaiman Gladiators, however, if you ask me. The way things broke down, I thought that was going to be the way it was. But Chapati Dream able to win 3 of the last 4. After going down 3-1, they would put themselves in the finals. It does feel like it's kind of a race for second. It felt like very much throughout Elevate's games. I mean, they pretty well swept their way through most of the event. I think they had, one game they lost? Yeah, one game they lost in Swiss stage. I think they had lost like a game or 2 during the earlier rounds as well. And APAC's only getting 1 spot, right? I think for majors, right? Yeah, so I think it's going to be a one team chase. I'm gonna be excited to kind of see what Elevate does, man. Elevate had hold on, let me get back over to what's that kid's name? Kid like just turned 15. Sphinx, I think. Yeah, Sphinx just turned 15 last month. Already got himself a regional championship, or a regional dub under the belt for Regional 1 for the qualifier. So that's kind of a big old cool, big old pat on the back for them. Let's see. In OCE, I feel like when we were talking about OCE right now, it's like a 3-team race, probably. Even though Kaka's Minion looked good during Swiss bracket, I think right now, the team at the top that we're going to be, you know what? You could probably say maybe 5. It feels like Power. I think Ground Zero will still be in that mix, and Quick Trip Pioneers Gaming, but I think Chiefs can also make a good run. Kaka's Minions showed at time that they can make a run. I mean, they won the first iteration of their matchup against the Quick Trip Pioneers, who did end up finishing second, right? They did end up losing the second iteration of it in the semifinals. They did try and almost pull off the comeback. They were almost about to pull off the reverse sweep, but once they got a Champions Field, Quick Trip Pioneers able to shut the door on Kaka's Minions, goes to the grand finals, but then they only win their 1 game on DFH Stadium, where they were able to piece things together. Otherwise, I mean, really only scoring once or twice while allowing a handful of goals in every game. Well, maybe not a handful, but 3-4 goals, right? So I feel like when looking at the games, Ground Zero kind of had an unfortunate draw. I think Ground Zero has a very good team that can still make a contention to run. I think Power probably sits in their own little tier at the top of OCE right now. I would probably put KCP up there as well. Or sorry, not KCP, Quick Trip Pioneers. But I think you could even be safe to put Quick Trip, Kaka's Minions, Ground Zero, maybe even Chiefs Esports, even though they got upset by Gremlins in the top 8. But that's 4 teams vying for 1 spot in OCE. As for now, it looks like it's Quick Trip Pioneers for the taking. In case y'all were paying attention over in MENA, we had a whole bunch of roster changes in MENA. Falcons have a whole new roster. The Rule 1 roster is basically the old Falcons roster. The twins from Rule 1 have now joined up with TRK over on Falcons. So Rule 1 now has Khaled, Naupo, and Ahmad. So the old Falcons roster. I would say in MENA, kind of similarly to OCE. I think Falcons is with this new roster. As much as I'm going to be a fan of Rule 1, Khaled's always going to have a place in my heart. And I think the Rule 1 roster can put up a better fight than a 4-1 against Team Falcons. I think that's worthy of a 6-7 game series. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if... I feel like if you were to put Team Falcons on Rule 1 in 10 series, 6 of them would go Game 7. I do feel like Falcons probably win 7 of the series, but I think Rule 1 win a couple of them. I just think that the Falcons have the young upcoming talent that are still adding their arsenal versus maybe seeing a little bit of complacency from the Rule 1 boys. It feels like you'd probably say in MENA, it'll be Falcons at the top. Rule 1, I would put Twisted Minds in the same sort of category as Rule 1. We actually saw Twisted Minds beat Rule 1 during Swiss stages. They just got unfortunately upset by Infinity. But I'd probably put like Rule 1, Twisted Minds as the two teams that are kind of like a head behind Falcons. But you still have teams like Infinity who can, make surprises. So I feel like the race for second out in MENA should be really, really fun. But I do think that's exactly what it is. I think it's just simply a race for second. I think the Falcons squad, the Team Falcons team has really shown that they're ahead above the rest. Sub-Saharan Africa. Unfortunately, no main broadcast. So your boy wasn't working. But I was paying attention to the region, man. Became a big fan of SSA last year, kind of starting off on a team stream during the fall, but then moving into working the main desk there for the last event in winter and then all of spring. As we talked about last week during the OnCue Esports podcast, there was the kind of rivalry with Young Money Clan coming in. A lot of talk going on. The Young Money Clan team stream got taken down. So, I think the Young Money Clan have definitely embraced the villain role in SSA. They had solid performances. I mean, they were able to sweep their way through Swiss stages. Not sweep their way, but they were able to win their way through Swiss stages. Only dropped 2 games. I'll tell you what, though. They almost dropped their series against NXT. That one went 7. Although, if I remember right, that squad is a French squad, right? Netherlands. But you know what? Still an import roster nonetheless. But once Limitless stepped on the pitch, and it felt like once Limitless stepped on the pitch against Young Money Clan, this team that's kind of been talking, kind of John a little bit, man. And Limitless, a team that normally does not interact in that sort of thing. You don't see the Limitless boys posting in the Discords, talking crap. You don't see them, inflating their egos over on X, right? But it definitely felt like they had a point that they wanted to prove. Once things hit the word go, 5-0 in game number 1, we saw one of the Young Money Clan players asking for a new server, which I think got everyone to kind of chuckle a little bit. But Young Money Clan's offense just not really able to put much together. Even the couple of times that they were able to have multiple score games, at least one of them felt more like a mistake on the Limitless side than like a good play on the Young Money Clan side, right? I will be curious to see if, because of some of these good import teams, if we see some of these rosters that have, you know, a good player or two kind of start to Miami Heat their way into some better, you know, rosters altogether, trying to super team some things just to like quote unquote protect their region. I thought Shmongolia looked very good. Shmongolia, of course, I think you have a couple of your players, Snoozy, Wordy. I think Guns it's his like first year on like a solid team. Was on Cosmico last year, who, you know, was one of those like middle of the pack, 5, 6, 7, 8 sort of area. Wordy obviously coming with a lot of experience from French class, aka Valiant, the team that kind of took over towards the end of last season. That was Bonjour very briefly. But also they got Snoozy from the Nicosi Ballers, who were another kind of mid-tier team. So you got some talent that want to prove themselves on this Shmongolia roster. Unfortunately, you know, you get the bad draws sometimes. Single elimination, you happen to get, you know, in the same half of the bracket at Limitless. It means you're going to have to pull up the upset in order to get to the grand finals. They unfortunately were unable to do that, but I think Shmongolia also looked rather good and have some things to build on. So I think SSA should be very, very fun to watch this year. Again, I know there's a little bit of bias, obviously, from your boy working over in that region. But I think with the storylines, I think that's going to be part of the reason why we need a broadcast. That needs to be a storyline that we're able to hype up and build up over a couple of qualifiers and let that rivalry build there. We saw Graybeard have like the best viewership he's had, like organically in a hot minute. If not ever, I think I saw him say in the casters chat earlier today. So, hopefully we get to have some broadcasts in the smaller regions, man. And I'm not just saying that so I can get work. Obviously, I would love to work over there, have some RLCS experience again as well, because I do enjoy casting these guys. If not, we're still going to be doing some team casts going through the season and trust, whether it's the rest of the season or picking them up later once contracts expire and stuff like that. But we'll find our way into some team casting for RLCS this season one way or the other. And then hopefully we'll still be over there in SSA. I would love for SSA to get their main cast, man. I think it's much needed. They've got them. You know what? SSA, OCE, APAC, like they are going to be sending teams to the majors. I feel like the least that they could allow is for other organizations like African Gaming League and, you know, organizations like that to at least host the event, get themselves the viewers. It doesn't have to be sponsored by Blast. You know what I mean? Let them kind of vet these orgs out, but we need to get on the ball and do that because we only have 2 splits, right? We lost a split from last year, and now we lost an event in a split because a team acquired, you know, a new organizer acquired the broadcasting rights so close to the start of the season. So, you know, one, I do got to say, I think for Rocket League fans, don't go pumping the brakes yet and getting, you know, throwing the fire in the bin, saying that things suck. I think this is going to be an adjustment year with a new, you know, with Blast taking over. But I think there's a lot of positives that we can take away from the first week. We also have, obviously, EU to watch, kind of see what improves from then to then. But I do think it is definitely, you know, going to be a work in progress. But I'm looking down at this time. I see we're already about an hour here, y'all. And I want to kind of get through at least talking one more thing. Now, I do got to realize, I do got to do one thing here real quick, because I realized that I might have to wait on my tier list for EMEA. We may have that later this week. Because I completely forgot to see if there is a tier list that I could just use the base of. Valorant EMEA. Let me pull this up real quick. Screwed. So if I can do it now, I'm ready to do it. Oh, it's like this though. Yeah. All right, let's do it. All right, let's talk some VCT EMEA. Before we do, though, just want to point out the fact that we're going to probably be doing some VOD review. Maybe. We might be doing some VOD review Wednesday. I would like to do a little bit of VOD review of the finals of the couple of finals that qualified teams for VCT. But we'll have to see. When we talk about VCT, as far as 4 challengers, first off, just want to say real fast, big shout out to FUT Esports, YFP, the Glazers, and Winthrop University. First 4 teams qualified in for Valorant Champions Tour. Challengers. Haven't gotten to watch the VOD, so maybe later this week we'll, like I said, go over the VOD a little bit. Don't want to talk too much on that, but I do got to say one thing before we do this tier list and wrap this thing up for the day, chat. I like seeing collegiate teams getting into challengers. Like, I was happy to see not just Winthrop, there were a couple of universities that were very late in the qualifiers, like late, like deep, like final, like I think like 16. There were 3 or 4 universities, I think, when it was final 16, top 16, however you want to call it. I think having that segue, that pathway from collegiate to pro, I think is healthy for esports. I think it'll help grow the collegiate level. I think just like sports, it should not be like, hey, this is why you come to school, right? I think it should be very much you are a student athlete or a student esport competitor, whatever you want to call it, but student first. But I do like seeing that pathway to pro is starting to build a little bit more to that, not so much B tier, but that prep level for younger kids getting into gaming. We're also even seeing across like the states, different high school leagues and stuff. So I'm a big fan. So love to see the collegiate teams. Kind of surprised we didn't see Northwood even sign up. They're like one of the best college teams. Maybe what they do for the next one, I'm not sure. But let's talk EMEA real quick, chat, and then we're gonna get the flip up on out of here. I know we're already kind of running late, so I'm not gonna fly through this because I want this to be valuable. I do want this to at least have a little bit of information, some of the stuff that I've kind of been thinking about heading into the season. But we won't talk too much because I know that we've already about an hour into the podcast here. I appreciate y'all for hanging out. By the way, don't forget, if you've made it this far on the podcast after the live edition, which we do over on our Twitch, whether you're watching on YouTube, you're listening to this on the audio version on any of the platforms, do me a favor, leave a review, leave a comment, leave a like, do all the things, tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if we can grow this thing out. I've been having a lot of fun doing this more like podcast, journalistic style, esports stuff. So before preseason, I wanted to do some of these regions. I had a lot of fun doing NA last week. So figured we could have some fun doing EMEA this week. Of course, we have the kickoff events starting off not next week, but the week after. So I still have to figure out a time that we're going to be doing Pacific and China. I might not do a China tier list because I didn't really watch too much of the China League, to be honest. But we'll see. Maybe I can kind of do some research up until that point. But I do kind of want to get into as far as a tier list for the year. I do want to say going into this for the tier list, this isn't as far as where they sit right now. For me, I want to make a list. Consider this more of a prediction on how they're going to finish the season versus how I rank them right now. Okay? So what I mean by that is if we were to say right now, it's very obvious that Fnatic sits in first place. It's very obvious that Fnatic is ahead and above the rest. But if I were to put them in second, it doesn't mean that they aren't the best team right now. It would just mean that I think that somebody is going to be able to pass them up by the beginning of the season. All right? With that being said, that's not going to happen. But just for instance, right? I do kind of want to start from the bottom here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Because I do think there's at the bottom of the list, I would say probably our bottom 3. I feel like our bottom 3 could probably, I don't want to say change anyway. Maybe our bottom 2. I can see Heretics and Koi maybe potentially changing. I do feel like BBL made some changes in the offseason that could potentially allow them to look decent. And when I say decent, I mean compared to what they, did last year. But they're still the second best Turkish team. And I think that is going to be very, very obvious towards the end of the season. There's a little bit of a fall off there, and for good reason, because you have a team that is Turkish that's put together a phenomenal sort of roster. So people who follow EMEA should probably know who I'm talking about. But again, I think for our bottom three, Koi in the last spot, Heretics, Fanatics, I would even say as far as Gentle Mates in 8th. Because we don't know much about them, I even kind of feel weird rating Gentle Mates so high because I think Ascension teams are going to struggle kind of across the board. We even kind of talked about that with G2 last week, right? In our NA rankings or tier list or predictions, whatever we want to call this. I haven't really figured out what we're going to call it. I should probably do that. Figure that out, huh? If y'all have an idea, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Because I'm going to take a picture of this. We're going to keep it for the end of the season and kind of see how it goes. But I do feel like Gentle Mates in 8th, our Ascension team. Right? Yeah, that's got to be right. And then Giants, probably 7th. Oh, nope. Yeah, I'm not very sold on Giants either. I mean, maybe, again, this is one of those things where if Gentle Mates starts coming out of Ascension and looking really good, maybe put them over Giants. I do think Giants, I mean, they picked up Redgar. Oh, is that why it changed? It's Giant X now. Oh, it's a new XL Sports and Giants are together. See, I did not know that. Interesting. But yeah, I mean, they did pick up Redgar from Team Liquid. I think going to be a good addition to the roster. Do I think Giants in 7th, or do we go Giants a little higher? No, I do think at least Giants pass Gentle Mates. I feel like when we look at 7th through 4th, kind of gets close because then you got what? Carmine Corp, Team Liquid, probably. Team Liquid, of course, had, coming off last year where they won their region, but never really performed well as far as on like the international level. Kind of finishing like 7-8, which still isn't bad, I guess we should say, but I just feel like there's always something left on the table. The question is, how much does Liquid fall off with all of their roster changes? Because you had Safe go to Vitality. Sulcus go to Apex. Apex Gaming, not Apex the game. Whereas Carmine Corp on the other side, kind of put together they have Narrate, who was in NA last year, but played for M80. But I do feel like it's still a decent pickup for them. It's kind of like a little misfit of roster changes otherwise for them. You do still have Shin, who was on the roster last year. They picked up the kid, the shot caller from Apex too, right? Yeah, Magnum. So I think Carmine Corp has made the changes necessary. They actually might fit it. Again, I think 4 through 7 can kind of change. I think I might actually put Carmine Corp ahead of Liquid. And then Vitality? Or will we put Carmine Corp ahead of Vitality? I do think the two French teams that did not do very well last year during play, So Carmine Corp and Vitality. I think both made the type of roster moves that were necessary. You're bringing in what? Destrian's coming back, right? Oh no, he was only inactive for like a month. Why was I thinking that they just brought somebody back? They still have Sender, so they have Sender and Destrian still back. Like I said earlier, you picked up Safe from Liquid, and then you picked up, I think, 2 like T2 players, right? Yeah, you picked up Runner and Kicks, but they were from the same organization, so maybe a little bit of synergy that they can work together. I don't know. Do I want to put Vitality over Carmine Corp? I think my heart tells me I would like to put Carmine Corp in fourth because I very much know that like the culture that KC is building and just in their esports altogether. I guess you could say the same thing about Vitality though, for real. I think both French orgs are really building something special and kind of have a good grip and an understanding of how to build a fan base. Because their fan bases are crazy. And hopefully at some point we get to see the new Carmine Corp facility. I would love to see EMEA VCT like hold an event there. But I do think Carmine Corp will have to be better than mid-pack in order for that to happen. But again, I think if you look at 4th through 7th, you know, Giants could go on a run. Go on a run. I think Giants X could very easily go on a run. Go, you know, 5th, 4th sort of area. So I'm even thinking about doing that, looking at it more, flipping Giants and Liquid. Now, I think I'm going to hold Giants in 7th. So Vitality in 4th, Carmine Corp in 5th, Team Liquid in 6th, Giants X in 7th, Gentlemates in 8th, BBL, Heretics, Koi. Again, I think Fnatic comes out on top. I just don't think there's anyone beating them right now unless they fall off. And I just don't see it happening. The question becomes between, you know, Navi and FUT. I think Navi picking up Artis and having him kind of returning to the crew could be a very, you know, easy reason to put them in 3rd or in 2nd. Sorry. I don't know, man. There's just something about the way this team has looked since Cena joined the roster. Now they've looked in some of these off-season events. You know, they won Convergence, which I believe was just the off-season, the little off-season EMEA tournament. They looked good in that. They finished, what, 3rd, 4th? The 3rd, 4th bracket for Home Ground 4. I think it's similar fashion to how kind of 4th through 7th can change. I think you could really make an argument either way here, chat, between FUT and Navi in 2nd and 3rd. I think as far as for me, though, I think I'm going to have to go with FUT in 2nd. And then Navi in 3rd. What I wouldn't be surprised to happen when we look at how the season is laid out is I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those situations where like Fnatic is your like automatic qualifier. Whoever doesn't make the first event between FUT and Navi will join the other two at Madrid. I think is the way that it works. Oh, wait, no, not Madrid. Sorry. Whoever doesn't make Madrid will make Shanghai. between Fnatic, FUT, and Na'Vi. Just because as much as I want to say that like the Vitality roster and the Karmine Corp roster, like they look good, and I like some of the changes that they've made this offseason, which I do. I do think that we will see that there will be a very distinct line here between third and fourth. I think the fourth, you could even say fourth through the rest of the standings. I think it's probably fourth through like seventh, maybe even eighth, depending on what Gentlemates brings to the table coming out of Ascension. I think that's going to be a close, little pick, which means when we talk about potential for next year, when some more roster changes happen, or even at the end of this year when one of these teams gets hot and maybe like an LCQ team for champs, right? Plus EMEA gets 4 for champs, right? So, that spot's going to be open, but I think your top 3 are pretty well locked in. Fnatic, FUT, Na'Vi. Yeah, I think this is a banger, chat. Let me know what you guys think. If you're watching after the fact over on YouTube, let me know down in the comments. I know y'all love the Flame people for their tier list. Let me have it. But again, this isn't so much where they sit right now. For me, this right here, chat, is my list for their. It's the prediction for how they're going to finish off the year. So I guess a tier list. But yeah. Trying to think about what else we got before we get up on out of here, man, because we're getting close to that hour and a half mark. I didn't want these podcasts to be this long. I apologize. I'll have to find a way to trim down maybe the results section. To be fair, maybe we should have done the VCT. Well, I guess, but we're going to have in a couple of weeks, we're going to have VCT results to go over too. So we won't have a tier list. I don't know, man. We'll figure it out, chat. Also, feel free to let me know kind of your feedback, what you guys like as far as us doing kind of the around the horn, couple different sports, couple different regions. If you guys have any suggestions how we can hit that a little bit easier, let me know. And then also, obviously, be keeping an eye out for the TLDR videos that'll be dropping later this week. That's a little bit different format with videos and stuff. I would really like y'all's help pushing those videos. I feel like those are some banger videos that just aren't getting the attention that they deserve yet from the YouTube algorithm. So even though, like, obviously we covered it today in the TLDR, or even though we covered it today in that section of the podcast, when you see the TLDR videos, I would really, really love if y'all could like check those out, let those things play through. The usual YouTube things, the likes, the comments, the shares, every little bit counts. All right. Because I really think that those are, I really enjoy those videos. I've been getting so much positive feedback. I just need help getting the video in front of more people. You know what I mean? So, also, obviously, same thing with this video. As I've said a couple of times with the podcast, if you're watching over on YouTube after the fact, hit the subscribe button down below. We're getting close to that first 500, which means we can get like the version of like the sub or whatever. I got to go over the terms and stuff. I can't remember what in the world they call it over here on YouTube, or over on YouTube, I should say, right? But we're closing down that first 500 so we can have memberships, so we can have super chats during our watch parties and stuff like that. So if you're watching this and you feel like you took home something, you know what I'm saying? To be fair, I feel like if you've been watching this and you've made it to an hour and 20 minutes, you haven't hit the sub button, I'm a judge. No, but I feel like if you made it this far, you probably enjoyed the vibe, man. Do a lot of journalistic style esports content over on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications on. We're gonna be trying to pump quite a bit of content out in the coming weeks here, man. We've got the first ALGS Challenger Series today. First finals for the Challenger Series for NA and EMEA. We've already had the finals for both APACs, I think, for both Challengers won. So good luck to all the competitors going out for that. Made an exciting announcement today on Twitter, so I guess I might as well share that over here with y'all now. But I'm super excited to announce that I'm going to be picking up some collegiate work as far as my casting this year for the coming semester for spring. Your boy's going to be working with the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. Hopefully that means your boy can, show up and show out and kind of prove himself, earn a land, because they're down in the DMV area. I'm not too far from that, so it'd be kind of cool to be able to add that to my resume. Your boy's been wanting to get into collegiate casting for a bit, so want to kind of jump right on in and put my foot in it. You know what I'm saying? Going to be casting a 1K tournament sponsored by Hot Pockets with Frost. As a longtime esport nerd that remembers Hot Pockets being like one of the first sponsors where we'd see Hot Pocket commercials, every commercial segment over on the MLG TV, man. Really cool to be hosting a tournament for them. I'm going to be I'll be casting the finals on Tuesday, so make sure y'all pull up for that. I'll have a link, obviously, on social medias, down the Discord as well. And like I said, man, keep an eye out for the YouTube content continuing on a roll. Appreciate y'all coming in and kicking it with your boy for some coffee with Q on Twitch, which, of course, on this Monday includes the OnCue Esports Episode 3. Y'all have been amazing today, man. I'm going to get up on out of here. We're going to go ahead and get the rest of our day started. I got some stuff to knock out. Who knows, man? Maybe I might pop live for a little bit of Rocket League later today. Don't forget, tomorrow is Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we always have our Stack Up stream over on the stackup.org Twitch channel. So we'll at least be over there doing some gaming tomorrow. If we don't get to do some gaming tonight, I do obviously got a lot to kind of get down and get grind to. So maybe we don't get some gaming tonight. Maybe we do. We'll all see. But I'm going to get up on out of here. Again, remember, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button over on YouTube while we chase down that first 500 subscribers. And so we catch y'all back over here for the next one, man. Don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard. All right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.